Welcome to Big Dan's Airgun Review channel. You may have noticed in the past that we compared a face-off between two classic underlevers, the Viroc HW77 and the Webley Eclipse. Now in the past video, in my opinion, I actually rated the Eclipse, again just my opinion, I know it wasn't a popular one, I actually preferred the Eclipse to the HW77, and it was a bit of a polarising dividing comment that I made and verdict that I made, and a few people said, well no, the 77, sorry Dan, but it's way better. So I thought, you know what, we can't leave it at that, we're going to have to do some more video review tests. And so I also then thought, well, do you know what, why don't we make it even more interesting? So I've recently come across a BSA Gold Star. Now this is something that you don't really see every day, and as far as I'm aware, at least what I can tell, they seem to be a pretty rare rifle these days, especially one in this nick. And I thought, you know what, save just doing the same old review over again. I mean, we've seen the handling and we've seen the features and such of these two guns. Why don't we put something new into the mix and try the Gold Star and see what that can do compared to these two? So what we're going to do is we're going to skip most of handling and we're going to skip features with these, because let's be honest, the review video we did where it's just these two, it was about 35 minutes, 40 minutes long, and if we're doing all three of them, well, you're going to need an entire afternoon off to watch this thing. So we're going to skip these two when it comes to the features and such, but we're going to start with the Gold Star and talk a little bit about it and have a look and see what the rifle's capable of, and then we'll put it up against the Icon and what I like to call the Underdog, and we'll see which out of the three is the superior rifle. So then, let's not make this video any longer than it has to be, like our recent ones that we've done, and let's move on to the features of the BSA Gold Star. Before we start talking about the features of the BSA Gold Star, I just want to say a massive thank you to the two customers that brought this rifle in and donated it to me for this review. Without you guys, this review would not be possible, and I honestly cannot thank you enough. But anyways, let's move on with the features of the rifle. Starting off at the rear, you've got a nicely figured rubber recoil pad there, which is also ventilated, which gives the rifle a nice look. It's nice little. I like it when I see these little bits of attention to detail and things like that. You've also got a nicely raised cheek piece here, which is actually the most pronounced cheek piece out of the three of them. So we're already off to a pretty damn good start with the Gold Star. Nice little bit of checkering there as well, which is quite nice when it's put to your palm. It's quite nice and deep as well. It's easily on par with the other two rifles, so it's definitely neck and neck at the moment. Another massive bonus is the trigger guard is metal, which we always like to see, and the trigger unit itself is also metal. But again, we'll talk more about the unit when we get to the handling part of this review. The rifle does also come, although you can't see it at the moment because it's sideways, it comes with a safety toggle, which is not automatic, which, you know, I quite like an automatic safety, but at the same time, there are people out there that do not like them. But again, that's another thing for the handling section of this review. Moving further along, now this is the interesting part and why I'm very, very grateful that I've been given the opportunity to review this. This is what sets it apart from pretty much every other rifle almost on the market, I'd say. And that is the fact that the Gold Star is actually a multi-shot underlever spring gun, which is a really, really, really interesting thing to have a look at and play with. And again, we'll talk more about that a bit later on. Further along here, obviously you've got the underlever cocking mechanism here, and you can see the lever release uses a push button style system, which, as many of you may know, is my favourite, and it's the same on the Webley. And you've also got this quite nicely finished sort of shroud here, that whether it has a silencing effect or not, we will soon find out later on in the review. So that's it for features of the Superstar. Now let's take a look at handling. But first off, before you can shoot the gun, you have to put a few pellets in the mag and see how you load the thing. So let's move on to that, and then we'll move on to overall handling, and we'll compare it to the two other rifles and see which one, in my opinion, comes out on top. So then, let's look at handling. So you've got your mag here, but how do you load the thing? Well, thankfully that is really, really simple. And if you've seen our BSA Super 10 review, I reckon this mag is looking really familiar around about now. Because as far as I'm aware, this is basically a BSA Super 10 mag, or at least it seems to be one to me. Loading the mag is incredibly simple. Simply get your pellet like so, and load it straight through the hole like that. Push it in as much as you can with your thumb. No Allen key or anything required this time, and simply spin it around like so, and keep going until the rifle is full. Couldn't be any simpler, if I'm being brutally honest. It's when the mags like these work, again, as I said in the Super 10 review, some of the old mags like these sort of cease to function after a while, but again, it's a magazine thing. Yeah, this one seems to work, and can't fault it, for being brutally honest. This one in particular is a nicely made mag. I've yet to have it jam or skip or anything like that. So now we know how to load the mag. We still don't know how to put it in the gun. Well, let's have a look how you do that then. Let's take a look at loading and unloading the BSA Gold Star. Let's go take a look. So you've loaded your mag, but you don't quite know yet how to put it in the gun. Thankfully, you don't need to be a rocket scientist to find out how. First off, you've got a small toggle here, if you can see that. Push that forwards, and then cock the rifle underlever down like so. There's a rather large lorry just went by, I do apologise. Then what you're going to want to do is get your mag and go pointy end into the action. Lock it in place with the toggle, and then return the underlever in place, and you're pretty much ready to go. And all you've got to do is take aim at your rabbit. Hopefully you'll be smarter than me and you'll take the lens caps off first, and then you'll pull the trigger, and you'll hopefully be dead. So then you want to take the mag out of the gun. Let's say you've completely run through your ammunition that's in the mag at the time. Again, simple. Break the underlever down, like so. Switch the toggle off. That comes straight out just like that. And you're ready to reload, and yeah, off you go. But you've seen now how the mag loads and how it goes in and things like that. But now let's say there's 3 rabbits out there and we want to take down all 3 of them in fairly rapid succession. Right, well, let's say this mag then is freshly loaded. Put it straight in like so, lock it back in place, return the underlever. You would have taken your scope caps off, remember? And now compare this to your traditional spring gun. So you just go 1, 2, 3. Just like that. That is fantastic. That is really, really brilliant. I've got to be honest with you. If we could have more modern multi-shot guns, spring guns like this, I would never ever look at a PCP ever again. I know there's the recoil and that there, and I know I'm already going off on a little tangent, but that is so good. It really is. Again, it's not a whole lot of good if you can't hit the target, but we'll move on to that a bit later. We'll see how if the mag system affects accuracy or not. But my verdict so far, I am well impressed. But why am I so impressed, you ask? Well, let me show you how you do the same thing with the HW77. And then I'll show you how it's done in the Webley, which is even slower, just to give us a bit of a refresher course so you can see exactly why I love this so much. So let's get the old 77 out and let's see what the difference is. Okay then, so HW77 time. Same test. Loading, and we're going to imagine we're going to take shots at 3 rabbits out there. So with the 77, you may have seen this or remember this from our previous video. You've got a small toggle on the front here, you might be able to just see there. Push that forwards, and you've got to cock the underlever down, which opens up the sliding breech mechanism that you can see there. And you're just about to see the port there where the pellet goes, or at least hopefully you can. It's a little bit hard to see from this angle if the camera can see that. I do apologise if you can't. And then next up, get your pellet, put it in through the breech there, return the lever, and you're ready to go. So that's 1 pellet loaded in, and again you have to do that every time. So you remembered how fast the Gold Star shot our 3 imaginary rabbits. Now let's do the same thing with this. So 3 rabbits, you go 1, 2, 3. Again, you can see a pretty huge difference between the pair of them, can't you? It's pretty drastic, I'll put it that way, and that's why I do like multi-shot spring guns. But if you think that was bad, let me get my Webley, and now you'll see bad. The thing is like a bloody blunderbuss to load compared to this. So let's get the Webley, and you'll see exactly what I mean. Now you may have seen the HW77 and you might be thinking to yourself, well, that took ages to load. Actually, that's kind of not true. I'm being a little bit misleading. The HW77 sliding breech design is quite probably the best way to load an underlever rifle. It just is, and it's fast compared to other designs that was around back in the day. Speaking of which, here's my rather sticky but lovely Webley. Now this uses a sort of pop-up breech design, and what you have to do with this one to load it is release the underlever mechanism and cock it first, pop the breech up, load a pellet through like so, lock the breech, turn the safety off, and then you're ready to go. So we've got a pellet loaded here. We're going to do our 3 rabbit test, and you're going to see just how much I have to be basically like an octopus, or have the amount of arms of an octopus, to load this thing in any sensible speed in a sort of high stakes scenario, like potential 3 rabbits in front of you. So we're going to do our 3 rabbit test now. Again, scope cap is on. I'm not actually shooting rabbits at the minute, at least as far as you know, but we're going to do our 3 rabbit test and you'll see the difference. Okay, so ready? I'll tell you what, we'll turn the safety back on to be extra fair. So ready and go. Safety off. 1. Cock it. Breech up. Fumbling this pellet loader a little bit. I do apologise about that. Not that it would have made a difference. Alright. Safety off. 2. Cock it. Breech up. Pellet in. Lock it. Safety off. And there was 3. Yeah, this one does take a while. Even back in the day, this one took a while. But it just goes to show, for one, just how brilliant that sliding breech design really is. There's a few guns that use it today. It's not just the Virux. You've got the TX200 uses its own sort of design where it comes out the side, and you've also got the XS38 that we shot the other day, which is also basically a homage, shall we say, to the sliding breech on the HW77. So that's the benefits, what you saw there, of the multi-shot system, because even with how good that sliding breech is, it's no chance up against that multi-shot mag in that Gold Star. I'd no way you'd be able to match it. But that's that advantage of the Gold Star out of the way, but we've still got to get into the real meat and potatoes, and that is the real handling section of this, when we compare each gun side by side as to how they feel in the shoulder, how they feel they shoot, and the trigger, which may only be a small looking part of the gun, but as we all know, can be a pretty huge thing, especially when it comes to accuracy and consistency. So we're going to get the Gold Star first, then once again we'll go HW77, and then we'll go for the, although I love it, the sort of unloved middle child compared to the, reading the comments what I read before, which is my Eclipse. I just don't think you have any taste. Let's get the Gold Star out and take a look. So then, handling, proper handling. What's this thing actually like when it's put to the shoulder? How does it feel in the hand? What's the trigger like, and how does it recoil? Well, in the shoulder, see, lens cap's off now, we have learnt. In the shoulder, it's really nice. If I'm being honest, at the moment, although I haven't held the pair of them to put it up against it yet, off the top of my head at the minute, I would say that it is comfortably lighter than the Eclipse and the 77. It's a much lighter gun than the pair of them. It balances pretty well. I mean, if I'm being honest, it's pretty much bang on dead centre, to be fair with you. It's a nicely made, nicely balanced bit of kit, and that checkering does feel really nice to the touch when you bring it in like this. So let's take a look at shot cycle and trigger, because this is the thing that can sort of make or break a rifle. You can have a gun that's made out of the best quality components you can think of, but if it's got a bit of a crap trigger on it, in my experience, or my opinion, it breaks pretty much the whole thing. So let's see what's going on with the Gold Star here. First things first, it's got quite a wide trigger blade. I know maybe the angle we're at, you can't really see that, which I'm not entirely sure about how I feel about that at the minute. It feels like you've lost a bit of feeling with the width of the blade there, but again, that could just be me being fussy. So let's have a feel. Got a nice first stage there. You might be able to see me bouncing off the second stage. That's interesting. It's quite nice. There's a tiny, I'm not sure if you saw it, hang on, I'll tell you what I'll do. So I'll get my point across. I don't know if you can see my finger on the blade there, but I'll show you what I mean. First stage is really nice, it's nice and light. Second stage, there's a tiny, let me see if I can rest into it. You might not have been able to see it, but there's a tiny little bit of creep. It's sort of like you hit the brick wall second stage, and then there's a little bit of creep, and then off it goes. It's It's pretty good, if I'm honest with you. It's not too bad. It's not the most precise trigger I've ever used. It's very acceptable. I'll put it that way. It's not heavy. It's not too heavy. Second stage is a bit stiff, if I'm being honest. And the thing that doesn't help it is there's a tiny little bit of creep into the second stage, and then poof, off it goes, which is a little bit off-putting. But again, I'm the only person. It might just be me. I'm used to a lightweight trigger. This is what I've always preferred. And again, for someone who maybe prefers a slightly more stiff second stage, you'll love it. You might even prefer it maybe to the record when you get it set up. But it's not a bad trigger, to be fair with you. So let's have a look at recoil now. See what that's like. The thing I will mention is that I'm not sure if that is baffled up top or not. I'm not an expert when it comes to BSA Gold Stars or these sort of older generation rifles. These are well before me, my time. But it's as whisper quiet as anything. There's barely any twang at all. I don't know if you're picking that up. It's just a and off it goes. It's almost like a gas ram to shoot. So let's put this to the shoulder and let's have a look at recoil now. So I'm going to take aim. We've got a little bit of wood down there. Yeah, there's a little bit of jump. It's not terrible. There is a bit of jump there. You might be able to see that little bit of flip when I pulled the trigger. There's no weird horizontal movement or anything like that. It is purely just a vertical up and down. But what I will say is the lock time, while not bad, doesn't feel that rapid. Hang on, it's a hard thing to put into words, if I'm honest with you. This is the last shot in the mag. It's a hard thing to describe, but I'll do my best. Yeah, the lock time doesn't feel the quickest. The recoil isn't terrible. There is a bit of recoil there, but it seems to take. There's a little bit of a delay before that spring is on its way and sending it off. It's not like how I remember the Eclipse feeling, or even the 77, which if my memory serves me correctly, didn't feel quite as quick as the Eclipse. But overall, to be honest with you, it's quite a pleasant thing to shoot. To be fair, other than that, I'm sure it's something you just get used to after a while. But it's quite a pleasant thing to shoot. It's not loud. It's the quietest, I'd say, easily, of all three of them. And it's not the worst recoiling thing I've ever shot. In fact, if it weren't for the fact that we're comparing it to, well, we've got the HW77 in contention for the title sort of thing. So if it's not for the fact that it is going against a pretty high-grade gun in the 77, and the fact that I'm a little bit biased, but I'll happily put my hands up to that. The Eclipse is my gun, and I'm used to it. To be fair with you, it's a pleasant gun to shoot, and again, even against these, it's still pleasant, but I just don't know if it's quite got the response, I'll say, of the other two. But again, we can't say anything about that until we get to the accuracy section. It might be twice as accurate as the other two, we don't know yet. But yeah, that was pretty good, not too bad. So yeah, good marks for the Gold Star. Right, now let's have a look at my Eclipse, and let's just remind ourselves as to how that handles. So let's get the Eclipse out then. Here she is. Well, here's the Eclipse. At the minute, it's still a bigger gun, but at the minute we don't actually have the silencer on there. I thought I'd give you don't get me wrong, the stubby silencer's not the best in the world, but I thought I'd give you the full enjoyment from hearing this thing shooting without the silencer on there, so as you can really get to appreciate just how quiet the Gold Star is. I do hope this comes through the camera properly, but the Superstar, the Eclipse, load it up like so. Like we said, this is already a lot more cumbersome, as we'd already described, compared to the Gold Star. But in the hand, see, safety's on. In the hand, it's nowhere near as heavy as you expect it to be. As mentioned, it's not as light as the Gold Star, but at the same time, despite look at it, despite the chunkiness of that, and we've got a fairly chunky scope on there as well, it's really not that heavy, not heavy at all. In fact, it's really not quite as far beyond the Gold Star as you might think. You've also got that really lovely, and I'm the only one who likes safeties really, or talks about them in general, I think, but you've got this lovely automatic safety on here, which not only is it nice and satisfying, you get that clink when you use it, but it's so easy just to flick on and off. It's just, I do just love the Webley. I'm so sorry. You can tell how biased I'm sounding at the moment. But anyways, let's put that behind us. Let's have a feel, see how it feels with the trigger and how it recoils. Yeah, did you hear that? Clunk! Again, that's because this uses sort of like an alloy cylinder instead of a steel cylinder. So it does make a different sound upon firing. It's more of a high-pitched chink when you're actually firing it compared to your normal tonk when you pull the trigger, or nothing that you get out the Gold Star, just and off it goes. There you go, there's a something you can make into a soundboard. Big Dan's airgun noises. But yeah, the Eclipse, pretty much as I remember it. The trigger is very unique in the way that you've got the two stages, but in the second stage, when it engages, again, a lot of people might not like this, I personally love it. The second stage, when it engages, you hit the second stage, and it almost, you pull it, and you feel it almost lightens up, only a tiny bit, but it lightens up, which to me is almost like the gun saying, right, I'm getting ready to go now, make sure you're on target, sort of thing. And then it only takes a little pull, and poof, off it goes. Regarding recoil and lock time, it's not, how can I put it? It actually, in my opinion, it doesn't recoil quite as much, comparing them side to side. Now, let me just have another go just to make sure. I do like to try and be as thorough as I can. It's not my fault, but it's also fun shooting these as well. Right, so let's just put another one in, just so I can be sure. Let's give it another go. Let's take aim at another piece of wood. Yeah, recoil-wise, there's not actually quite as much with this as what there was with the Gold Star. The Gold Star, there was a bit more recoil, and with this, the lock time does feel a lot quicker as well. This is, in my opinion, it's got the fastest lock time. Again, if memory serves, I've got to shoot the 77 just to be sure. It's got the fastest lock time of all three, and you can feel it. I'll put it that way. I don't know if it's because of that alloy piston in there or what it is, but something's doing its job in there, and it's fantastic. The only thing that will put a few people off, again, some people weren't fans of the trigger. I was a bit, again, maybe slightly controversial with what I said about that at the time, preferring it to the record unit the way it was set up, but the trigger is, in my opinion, if you like a lightweight one and you can get used to the feel when that's about to go, when it's about to break, it is a superb unit on there. But when it comes to overall weight, balance and how you can hold this thing steady, I love the Eclipse. I really do. It's a great bit of kit. Recoil wise, better than the Gold Star. Lock time, quicker than the Gold Star. Sound, considerably worse than the Gold Star. But that's just something, again, that we're just going to have to live with this. There's not a whole great deal we can do about that unless we change the piston in there. But that's the Eclipse and the Eclipse's trigger and how it feels like to shoulder and shoot. Let's move on now to pretty much the godfather of underlever rifles. Let's have a go at the HW77, and we'll see what the icon's like compared to these. So let's get the 77 out. Right then, HW77, pretty much. I'd still say, you could still say it was pretty much the king of the underlevers, even today. You get, just for what it can still do, and this is an older gun. This is an 85, I believe, 77, and it will still kick pretty much most new underlever rifles' asses pretty much from here to next Sunday, sort of thing. It is a lovely, lovely thing to shoot. But let's actually get into the finer details now. What is it like when put to the shoulder? Well, it's the heaviest of the three, even though it's only got a little Fontaine scope on top. Lovely scope though, if I'm being honest. It's really wide angle for such a small thing. But yeah, it's the heaviest of all three. But what saves it is it's the best balanced. Which I think, I mean look, I'm not even struggling to keep that thing still. That is just straight away, just put my hand down like that. I don't know if you can see that, but that is just sitting beautifully flush against my hand. It's the best balanced of the three, even if it is the heaviest. But let's load the thing and let's have a quick look about how the thing fires, and let's talk about the trigger as well, because as mentioned, it'll be the best gun in the world, but if it's got a naff trigger, it doesn't mean a whole lot. One thing I will say, and maybe this is just a thing with this 77, but to be fair, my 97 does the same thing. You can cock the gun, but you've got to be careful. You've got to make sure that you really drag that back, because that was barely engaged just then. Maybe it's an issue with the underlever Virox, I don't know, or the ones that use this safety system. But be careful with your 77 and your 97, because it might not be safe when you think it is. But let's talk about now. Let's go shot cycle and trigger. That's good. Right, this straight away. I'm going to say something now. I think there's been some sabotage, because this trigger was not this light when I did that first shoot off. I think that behind the scenes, I think maybe the uncle who owns this gun is maybe, I don't know, there's a little bit of cheating on the go, because he wasn't too happy with the result when I told him that my Webley actually outshot the 77 back in the day, and I think there's been some fiddling going on. But that is really nice. It's easily the least recoil out of all three. I can't lie about that. I'm going to tell you the truth. I know the Webley's mine, but Yeah, it's the least recoil out of all three. There's almost no movement at all. The scope barely even jumps. And let me give it another go. Remember, people, I shoot these air guns so you don't have to. So, load it up again. Let's check. Yeah, safety. Give it a bit more of a tug that time. Safety properly engaged. Now, let's just see if I can get the barrel in the view for you. Almost nothing there. The lock time's not quite as quick as the Webley, is the only thing. You can feel there's a dear little bit going on before it's done its business, sort of thing. But there's almost nothing in it, if I'm being honest. I would just about give the point to the Webley, but if I'm being honest, I don't think it'd really be enough to throw you off. I think, to be honest, it's more down to what you prefer the feel of. Again, the Webley feels quicker. With the Webley, although still not a lot of recoil, there's a little bit more there. Whereas with this, it's almost flat. It's almost like a PCP to shoot. I know I preferred the Webley last time, but I've got to be honest with you guys. I mean, come on, it's a record trigger. I like the Webley trigger, but this is a record, and it's since been tampered with, I think, and that is superb. It really is. But no, when it comes to handling, what I'm willing to say is, I would say, recoil-wise, Varrock, all day, every day. It's a softer recoiling gun. Lock time, I'm going to give to the Webley. So again, maybe tuners out there, if you can get your hands on a Webley, you might be able to tune a little bit of that recoil out, and you would, I reckon, you'd have a laser on your hands. But when it comes to the sound when you shoot the gun, because this can put people off. If you have a twangy gun, sometimes you're not, especially some of the, say, lower end synthetic guns, where you really get that spring reverberating through the action and through the stock, it can put people off. But when it comes to actual sound and, say, pleasurable shooting experience in that regard, it goes to the Gold Star all day, every day. But yeah, so far, to be fair with you, each one has got its own strength and weakness. Before you start thinking, oh, at the end of this review, Dan's going to give, he's going to make it so as it's a draw, so as not to upset anybody. No, I'm not going to do that. I thought about that when I actually started this video review, and I thought, no, a lot of people do that. I think so as they don't upset anyone. Well, I've already upset the Varrock people with my last review. So, yeah, I might be doing it again. We don't know. But, yeah, we'll see how they get on. So we better now see how this translates into accuracy. Now, what I'm going to do is we're going to set our target up at our 25-yard range. We're going to have 3 5-shot groups, obviously one with each gun. And then we're going to do 3 5-shot groups rested, so we can see how the recoil to start with affects me, and then we're going to see the overall accuracy of the guns and see what they're like. So let's get our range set up. I'll walk you over there so you can see exactly what we're dealing with. So you can see there's no trickery on the go and such like that. And yeah, let's move on to the fun part. Let's go accuracy. We'll start with the Gold Star, I reckon. So let's go to the range. So then, range time. First off, I apologise about my shadow being in the shot. When the sun's your light source, there's not really a great deal I can do about that. Yeah, the other thing I've got to apologise for actually is because I know it's been a long time since I've done my last review. I think it's been about a month. The reason for that is we've had some really crappy weather here, at least in Essex, and unfortunately, although this is the best day to do this review, you might be able to hear there is still some gust going around, and it seems to be coming more or less straight at me, which is strange considering that there's a log pile sitting right in the way. I mean, hang on, just to show you, look at the target card. So it must be coming through the cracks in the wood there. But this is the only day really, or the best day that I can get it done, so I do apologise about that, but I will find breaks in the wind and I will do my best to keep the test as consistent as physically possible. But this is the 25-yard range as per usual. Can't do 40 because that bloody thing. Anyways, have a pan across and you can see here, oh hello, hope you guys can see that, but yeah, we've got a we've got an air show going for us here at Big Dan's Airguns today. I look like a gnat, I believe. Anyways, we'll look across now. There's our 25-yard mark where I'll be sitting, just there. You can see the bag of goodies in my way there, and the table just next to that. First 5-shot group, as mentioned, will be with the Gold Star and completely unrested. Then we'll do the Eclipse and then the HW77. Will it be a case of saving the best till last? Who knows? But we'll do the HW77 last, and then after that we'll have a look at the results, and then we'll move on to rested groups, so we can see just exactly, take the idiot out of the equation, and we'll see how the guns shoot from rested position. So here's the range. We'll get the camera set up and let's start 5 shots with the BSA Gold Star. Let's see what it can do. Next up, Webley Eclipse. And finally, the HW77, 25 yards, unrested. So then, 25 yards, unrested, accuracy test results. Who did well, who didn't do quite so well? First off, we'll start with the BSA Gold Star. Now the Gold Star, like the Webley, was using the Remington Thunder Field Target Trophy pellets. As you can see here, it's not a bad group, to be fair with you. Again, it is quite a gusty day today. The thing that... Hang on, let me just pan the camera up there. You can see that tree wiggling a bit there. That's actually fairly light wind at the moment. It is picking up quite a bit worse than that. You might even hear the barn creaking to the left of me as I'm speaking now. But yeah, it's actually a pretty good group, if I'm being honest with you. I mean, it's a gun, I won't lie to you, it's a gun that I'm not that familiar with at the moment, and it sits pretty perfectly under a 20p piece. Again, gun I'm not particularly used to. That did pretty damn good, to be fair. The trigger, again, with a lighter trigger, I think it would have shot even better, but you know, that's not too bad. That'd give many spring guns on the market today a run for their money. I'll put it that way. It did a pretty good job. I'm quite impressed with that. Then we've got the Webley. Also, what I'm going to show you now, a little, just to describe something, just show how bad the weather's been lately. These guns were zeroed on different days. Both of these guns were shooting at the bull on those days, but where the wind was so rough, you can see where I picked my shots here as much as I could, where it calmed down a bit. That's far left, and this is far right of the bull. But yeah, we'll see when we get to the rested section of the review. I might adjust zero just a couple of clicks and just see if we can get it back on bull again, because obviously it's a little bit annoying when we should be there and we're over there. But the Webley, again, FTT pellets and 5p group all day long. Easily sits under the 5p piece. It doesn't get that much better than that, if I'm honest with you. I do love that old gun. Or does it get much better than that? Because here's the absolute bloody stonker, and that is the HW97. Granted, it used to shoot well with the Super Domes. In fact, here, look, I've got a tin sitting here right now, just in case. I have tried these pellets already, but just in case these didn't quite go the way that they should have done, I thought, right, well, I'll go back to the Super Domes and we'll see what we can do back with those. No, today we use the Rifle Premium round head pellets in 2.2, which, to be fair, they're fairly hefty. You can see there it says 18.67 grain, which I did not think that the 77 was going to like that much, if I'm being honest with you. Springers, in my experience, like a lighter pellet. The Thunder Field Target Trophy pellets are only 14.66 grain, but these are monsters. But monsters in weight, monsters in accuracy. I promise you now, that is 5 shots. Hang on, let me just, there you go. Perfectly under a 5p piece. Now we do have one flyer off to the left. It wouldn't be Big Dan's Airguns without the flyer. We do have that over there. Now, again, that could have been me. I'm man enough to admit when I've potentially messed up. I'm not the super shooter, I'll put it that way. But that's still 4. I promise you, if you rewind that video back, I can't personally believe just how well that grouped, but if you rewind that back, I promise you now, you will hear 4 kathunks in the video right in that spot, and then you've got that one there. That is insane accuracy. Now what I'm going to do is I'm now going to do 5-shot groups unrested here with the, we'll go with the BSA again, but first there might be a slight intermission because, like I said, if I can, I'm going to try and get these over here and these back in here. They're good enough. They're close enough. I might come a click down, I don't know, we'll see how we do, but I don't really want to mess with it too much because that is bloody beautiful right there. Anyways then, let's get our rest ready. We'll set the camera back up into its station and we'll do our 25-yard accuracy testing. You never know, the BSA might come back and from a rest it might be an absolute tack driver, but if I'm being honest, well, I think we can see who's still going to win. That was ridiculous, but you never know. We'll see what happens. Right then, let's move on to 25-yard rested testing with the BSA Gold Star first up. Well, first up for our grouping is the BSA Gold Star. However, one thing that has sort of crept up that may put a bit of a rain on our parade is the fact that although it may not come out too well in the camera there, the wind has picked up like a right bugger. So our results shooting off a rest might not be quite so brilliant as what I was hoping they was going to be. Nevertheless, I will, hang on, let me just pan it across there. You can see there the way the wind's picking up. You might even be able to hear it in the camera. I was hoping you'd be able to see the way the grass is blowing across the field there. But I can only apologise about that. But nothing ever goes smoothly with our reviews, do they? But yeah, I'll do what I can with the wind. I'll try and well, time my shots to dodge the wind, so to speak, but I can't necessarily feel what's blasting me through here whilst I'm all the way back at my station. So yeah, I'll do what I can, but unfortunately if our groups open up, that's what we know it's going to be. It's the bloody wind. Anyways, let's carry on and let's try the BSA Gold Star up first. Next up, Webley Eclipse. And finally, the German. Accuracy test result roundup. Who did brilliantly? Who didn't do quite so brilliantly? Well, on the left here we've got the BSA Gold Star. This is our unrested group, 25 yards. Not a bad group, to be fair with you. It's about 20 pence in size. Hang on, just a quick recap. There you go. You can just about at a push get that under the 20 pence. And then we have the 25 yard rested group. And with this, get our 20 pence out of the way. We do have one flyer, but with that, 5 pence straight away. Now this was the main one, to be honest with you, that I was interested in, because as I said, when you're shooting the gun in your hand, it's not got the quickest lock time in the world, and it has got a bit of kick to it as well. And as you can see, off a rest, you can mitigate that recoil and make up for that lock time quite a lot, and you get a pretty damn good group. I've got to be honest in there. I know we had one up here, but again, you may be able to hear the the rafters on this barn as the wind's picking up once again. We did have a windy day. It could have been me, could have been the pellets, could have been the gun, that one. Moving on, we have the Webley Eclipse. Now this was also, oh, that's 20 pence. Where's my 5 pence gone? This was unrested, and we have a 5 pence group just like that, so that's pretty good. And I mean, to be fair with you, I did sort of expect around that with the Webley, because in the last video we did about that, but it was a lot less gusty back then. It was also a lot more warm, or a lot warmer, as I should say. And here is it rested. Now rested again, as I said before, we was doing a little bit of zeroing, because it does annoy me when we see groups just off to the side. And I thought, you know what, bugger it, we're going to zero it mid-session this time. And that is perfectly under a 5 pence piece. I'd say comparing the two, these two, I think the Webley is definitely, it's got the BSA beat, for being honest with each other. But, and this is the bit that hurts, now we have the Virarc. Now the Virarc, you've got, you do have one little flyer there, whereas the Webley, well, to be fair with you, this I'm trying my hardest to make the Webley maybe say, well, the Webley was more consistent, but to be fair, I mean, look, you've got 4 shots in there. This is unrested, by the way. 4 shots through there, unrested, although the wind was a lot calmer then. And we've got one little flyer there. Again, could be me, could be dodgy pellet, could be wind. Let's face it, it's not the gun. So again, I mean, the Webley's, it's not far off, to be fair with you. I mean, the cluster looks sort of neater with the Webley. You don't have just one flying off, then that's only because you've got 4 of them pretty much definitely, sorry, not pretty much, but definitely touching each other in the centre there. Then we go to rested, and yeah, I don't think that really, I mean, that's good. That's very good. That's even good, to be fair. that is out of this world. And I can't really, if I'm being brutally honest, I can't see any way my Webley is probably going to catch up to that, if I'm being brutally honest. To myself and to you guys, there's just no chance. But overall, that is absolutely astonishing, the accuracy there. It was accurate with the Super Domes, if we're being honest with each other, but these Rifle Premium Series pellets just really seem to work in this barrel, which, as mentioned, was quite surprising considering that they're 18.67 grain, which I always thought was really getting up there for a spring gun. But yeah, that's accuracy results out of the way. Now we just have to move on to final verdict and see which one comes out absolute trumps when it comes to our ultimate Underlever Springer showdown. So let's move on to final verdict. There you go, a little bit of bonus footage for you. I heard a rumble in the distance, and that looks like a Dakota. I can't quite make out what the escort fighter is. I think it might be a Hurricane, but I'm not too sure. Anyways, back to the final verdict. Okay, so final verdict time. Which rifle is the best of the three in our Underlever shootout? Well, that's actually a really hard thing to answer. I know I said earlier I'm not going to be one of those reviews that go, oh, they all win in their own way, and I will try my best not to do that, but it is going to prove exceptionally difficult with these three, and you'll find out why later on. But let's do this like category by category. First off, we'll start with features, and out of the three, it easily goes to the Gold Star. Now, the reason behind this is because basically, if I'm being honest, it's a multi-shot. That's a hell of a feature to have, to be fair. These take forever to load, and don't get me wrong, the slide and breech design, as I've already mentioned on the 77, is a brilliant design, but even that in comparison takes forever to load compared to the Gold Star. It's just the way things are. So when it comes to actual features, you've sort of got to give it to the Gold Star, if I'm brutally honest with you. It's such a nice thing to have, and neither of the other two seem to have it. When it comes to handling, though, which I can get a whole lot more in depth with, because there's multiple different sort of areas that we look into with handling, things get more complicated. Now, when it comes to weight, if lightness is what you're after, it's the Gold Star again, because it's not a heavy gun. I've got to be honest. It's one of the lightest underlevers I think I've ever shouldered, ever. It's light as a feather. I've had break barrel rifles that are heavier than this thing, but at the same time, that might have been working against it slightly with our unrested group here. As you can see, it's ever so slightly, it still fits under a 20p piece, but it's ever so slightly scattered. And with a spring gun, as I'm sure many of you know, and gas rams, weight is sometimes a good thing because it can help control the recoil. It might make you wander around a little bit more until you get used to it, so it's harder to get on target, but it will stop the muzzle flip just a little bit, and I think that could have been what was causing us issues here perhaps. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't a pretty windy day as the day went on, but the weight could have been causing it issues. The Viroc is the heaviest of the three, and you can feel that when you shoulder them, and that is even considering that it has the smallest scope out of the three at the moment. It is the heaviest, but at the same time, well, as mentioned, weight does have its own benefits. It's too bad it doesn't work like that with us, isn't it, with people? Weight has benefits, skinny people. But then again, where it gets even more confused, I know you might be saying, oh, he's just saying this now because it's who the gun he loves, but the Webley is almost sits perfectly in between them. And let's be fair, when it comes to accuracy, the Webley is no slouch at all. That's 5p, as we've already measured, and that is comfortably inside of 5p. When it comes to a gun, I'll say this, when it comes to a gun that you're going to walk around a field with and go shooting, you're going to be walking a lot of the time, you'd take the BSA. If you're doing a bit of target shooting or something like that, you're not really that mobile, you'd take the HW77. When it comes to weight, anyway, I'm talking about. But when it comes to, if you're doing something like, I don't know, a bit of both. You're walking up a little bit, you can chuck a sling on the Webley, or if you're doing a bit of target shooting as well, I think the Webley's got the perfect balance of all three. It sits perfectly in the middle between all three rifles. So, I can't say there's a winner, if I'm being honest, because they all do their own thing. But enough of that, let's move on, save us waffling on. After that, we have shot cycle. So, recoil, which one had the least? Viroc, absolutely no question whatsoever. It is smooth as silk to shoot, and I'm sure every single HW77 owner out there are probably like nodding in agreement, like, yep, smooth as silk to shoot. The Webley isn't that far behind, if I'm being honest. Not that far at all. In fact, you can barely really notice the difference. It's the smooth criminal of the lot of them, the 77. The BSA falls flat in this area. The BSA, it recoils a bit. It's all vertical. Mind you, they're all vertical here, to be fair, unless you really grip it and rip it, at which point it kicks you all over the place, but then that's the same with every gun, or spring gun. It's all vertical, but there is more of it. And it also falls flat in our next category, which is what I say is lock time, which is the time it takes for the spring to decompress and send that pellet on its way. The time it takes for the whole thing to get going. The BSA is the worst out of all three. You can feel it takes longer for it all to happen. Although it's only milliseconds, you can still feel it. And added with that recoil on top is what I think gave us the accuracy issues here. Again, don't get me wrong, it has been pretty damn windy all day, but at the same time, I think that's what it is that's causing that there. Lock time wise, the Virock is quick. It is pretty damn quick. I know I say it's not as quick as the Webley, which is true, which is my champion when it comes to lock time. It's, again, really not far behind. The Webley, when it comes to shooting dynamics, shall we call it, and the Virock, in my opinion, are really close to each other. They're very, very similar. But it does have to go to the Webley. So if you're after something that's maybe, as I like to say, more responsive to shoot, the Webley might be more your deal. That being said, again, this is not a deal breaker, but it is something that some people can be turned off by. That is twang. Obviously, you pull the trigger, spring gun, it's going to tonk as you, well, send that pellet on its way. But at the same time, that's a defender going by. I do apologise about that. Yeah, at the same time, yeah, it can be something that puts you off. The BSA, the Gold Star, is whisper quiet. It almost barely makes a sound when you pull that trigger, and I assure you, she's definitely full power. It's doing, last time I chronoed, I believe it was doing about 11.4 feet pound when we serviced it. Whisper quiet to shoot. If you're after something quiet, not going to upset the neighbours, the Gold Star will definitely keep them happy. The HW77 though is a very close second. It lets out a very quiet, but there's definitely a tonk when you pull that trigger. You can barely hear the thing, but it is definitely there. The Webley, on the other hand, likes to make its presence be felt. I'll put it that way. It is quite loud. It's quite high pitch. Even with the stubby silencer, which is not on it at the minute, I left it off. With the stubby silencer on there, it doesn't make a huge amount of difference, if I'm being brutally honest. Most of the noise is coming from that action. And it does tend to scream a little bit, I'll put it that way, when you shoot the thing. So, again, shot acoustics, it's the Gold Star. Trigger. Now, trigger, this is one where I'm going to have to be honest and say it's the Virock that wins. But I do really like the Webley trigger myself. Again though, I'm going to have to give it to the Virock from an unbiased sort of perspective. You've got the widest range of adjustment with the record unit. It feels great. The trigger blade feels nice, although I do personally prefer the Webley's trigger blade. The trigger blade feels nice. It's predictable. What more could you really want from a trigger? The Webley's a close second, in my opinion. I like, as you may know, a light trigger, and the way that the Webley's trigger breaks is absolutely beautiful for me. You feel the second stage come in, and it's a bit unique in the way that the trigger actually gets a little bit lighter. You could say it creeps a little bit, but I actually really like that. It gets a little bit lighter, telling you the gun's about to go off, and it only needs a little bit more of a pull, and off it goes. Gold Star, distant third. Not a terrible trigger by any means. It's not too bad. The blade lets it down a little bit. It is, I don't know if you can see that, but she's pretty chunky, and it doesn't give you the best feel, if I'm being honest. And I don't really like the way, there is still a little bit of creep with this, but it's sort of, you got a nice first stage, then it gets heavy, you got a bit of creep, and then you feel there's almost like a third stage, like as I call it, the brick wall second stage kicks in, and then you pull it and pull it and pull it until it finally gets enough pressure to go, sort of thing. You can't have it as light as these two here. You, like, just pop, off it goes. With that, it's bang. But yeah, trigger-wise, I know I'm being a bit vague with how I'm reviewing this, but if I can't put it into words, that's the only way I can describe it. But yeah, trigger-wise, the Virock walks away with it. So overall, when it comes to shot dynamics, the Webley, to be fair, I like the lock time's the quickest, it's got that, and the recoil was second. The Webley, again, is sort of like jack of all trades. It's the master of one or two things, but it sort of doesn't have the, how can I put it, the uniqueness of these two when it comes to firing. Overall pleasantness when it comes to shooting, yeah, in this instance, alright, I'll give it to you. I'll say the 77. So now we've got accuracy. Now, accuracy wise, it's the 77. I don't think I really need any major description here really to say why I mean this, sorry, but yeah, I think we can see why it's the HW77. But yeah, the Eclipse, to be fair with you, is really not far behind. And in the first video review, when we shot both rifles using the Superdome pellets, the Eclipse actually outshot the HW77. So there is that going for it. The BSA isn't bad. It's not too bad at all. That's rested there. We had one flyer, and that is unrested. We had a couple, like, sort of splitting up the groups there. But it's not too bad, but it's not quite on the same level. Again, shot cycle might be putting that off. Trigger could also be putting it off. Maybe if I got used to it a lot more, I could have tightened that up a bit. Could be my fault, but that's just what happened today. But yeah, accuracy-wise, it goes to the 77. Now this is, you know where I'm going with this, what I'm going to say next. I know I can't really give points or anything for this, but when it comes to looks, this is just my perspective. I know everybody's going to go, don't be stupid, the Virock's better looking, but it's got to go to the Eclipse. I know I said this last time. Again, this doesn't really mean much. Everybody's different. I'm giving it to the Eclipse. It's just a much classier looking gun. And even if it is stupidly long, when we do attach the silencer poking out the end, it's the only one that really stands out, if I'm being brutally honest. The Virock is nice, but it's very German. A little bit soulless, if you know what I mean. Whereas the Webley, just sort of, you look at it and go, that's a pretty gun. The BSA is not bad. It's just a little bit too, I don't know, normal looking, I think, for its own good. Just taking a look at it, you can definitely see sort of like the lines, or familiar lines of other BSA rifles running through the stock of the Gold Star. You can see the history in the Gold Star, I'll put it that way, but some people might love that. It might take them back. I look at that and just think, yeah, it's nice, but I want to look at the Webley. But yeah, that's it pretty much for our overall final verdict. What I'm going to do is I'm going to break them down into categories now and say which one is the champion of which. Now, if I had to say which one was the best target gun here, I'm going to give it the 77. It just is. There's no real way. On this video, like I say, the Eclipse won the last one, okay, so we might need a best of three. But for now, yeah, it's the Virock. The Virock, it shot the best. It's nice to shoot. You can't really say any more than that, really, can you? Beautiful trigger, lovely gun. However, when it comes to a gun for, say hunting round the farm, like what you can see here, not major long range, say 20-ish yards, or even sort of the 25 yards what I've been shooting today, but in much calmer weather, it's the BSA. The Virock doesn't even come close. Don't get me wrong, the Virock can do it, but if you're ratting or something like that and you need multiple shots off quick and you want a nice and lightweight gun to lug round on, I know which one I'd take. It'd be the BSA every time. It's just a much more manoeuvrable and much more, well, I won't say rapid fire, because that's a bit of a almost like an American Hollywood film thing to say, but you know what I'm trying to say. It's easier to use, it's light, it's incredibly pointable. You'd go with the BSA. The Webley sort of fits in between both of these guns. I'd say the Webley's the best. If you want something to look at, you'd go for the Webley. I know it's shallow, but it's, in my opinion, the truth. But it's also something that you could do it for both. It shoots really well. On a good day, I'm sure it'll be just as good as the Virock, with maybe different pellets, you don't know. But it's lighter than the Virock is, and not far off when it comes to balance. It is a nicely balanced gun. You can take it with you shooting if you want. You could attach a sling to it, put some swivels on there, and you can carry it. It's not that heavy. You could lug it around maybe to do some rabbit shooting. It wouldn't be nowhere near as good for ratting or something like that, or let's say a target-rich environment as the BSA, just because that takes the longest to load out of all three of them. But at the same time, yeah, it's sort of, again, like I said, the Webley sort of sits perfectly in between the pair of them. But yeah, that's what I'm going to say. If I had to, again, I know I've sort of said they're all winners, but to end this and stop waffling on, my verdict is most accurate today, easiest to shoot well, best target gun, Virock. When it comes to close range hunter, easy to use, easy and pointable, nice and light, BSA. And when it comes to both of them put together, but a bit of a faff to load until you get used to it, it's the Webley. That's all I can say. So yeah, they all win, but they also all lose at the same time. There you go. That's the Big Dan verdict. Right, I'll see you next week. But yeah, that's it for this shoot off video. Thanks ever so much for watching. If you want the Airguns reviewed, leave a comment down below and we'll see what we can do. I am trying to. I've got a couple of PCPs to review soon. I've got an Artemis M16 which I've got to get done, and I've also got. I might have a Kozak FC that I might be reviewing very soon. The new little Kozak. But what we're going to be trying to do is we're going to try and tackle a few of the cheaper spring guns, introductory level things, because there's not really a lot of them on YouTube, which I think is a little bit unfair, because not all of us start with, like say, the Webley, the Fire Arc, or the Gold Star. These are, when it comes to collector's item, these are way up there now. So I was thinking maybe start, say, some more budget spring guns. So if there's any there you was interested in maybe me taking a look at, by all means, leave me a comment down below and I'll see what I can do. But yeah, also, yeah, let me know how you score this. I want to see how you guys would score this anyway. I'm imagining that the Fire Arc is going to get a 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10 from absolutely every category from everyone. But yeah, be interested to see what you guys say. But yeah, thanks ever so much for watching. If you want any more information regarding air guns or looking to try an air gun before you buy, get in touch with us at bigdansairguns.co.uk. And yeah, take care. We'll see you next time.